What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Luttie's Look Back. My name is Nick Luttrell. Today we're going to be breaking down a lot of basketball just like we did last week, and we'll start my show how we always do with my three big things from a disappointing, frustrating, ugly loss for the Arkansas men's basketball team, a 22-point loss to Auburn. You see the three things behind me. The defense, it's a major concern. I mean, it was a concern in this game, and I'm afraid it's a concern going forward. The second big thing is just the lack of aggression as a whole. It looked like Arkansas didn't want to be in this game, didn't want to play, but specifically rebounding, specifically on the boards. And my third big thing, this is not the Arkansas team that we know, that I know, that you know. It's not. Something was different, and I'll talk about why in a second, or why maybe I think. So let's go back. Let's go back to this first point here of what I have with my three big things. If you're new to the show, this is how we always start it. Kind of my three big takeaways from Arkansas's game that they had over the weekend. In this case, it was a game at Auburn, an unranked Auburn team that Arkansas was favored to lose. They probably had a 40% chance to win heading into the game, so slight underdogs in this one, but still a lot of people were picking them to knock off Auburn. In recent years, you would never think Arkansas would beat Auburn on the road. But this year, you're like, Auburn hasn't looked as good as they have been in the past. Bruce Pearl stepped out of the way. His son is now leading the way for this Auburn Tigers team. And Auburn really hasn't looked amazing all season long until this game. And they decided to put up their best performance of the season against the Razorbacks. And it came at a bad time because Arkansas decided to put forth their worst performance of the season. When you put those things together, that's when you lose by 22 points. So let's talk about my three big things. I'm already ranting there about the team. Let's talk about the defense. Let's take things one thing at a time here, Nick. All right, defense, it's a concern because in this game, offensively, it wasn't great. You know, Arkansas shot too many threes. They didn't look efficient on offense, but really the problem was defense. And some of that you can give credit to Auburn. You can give credit to their incredible shooting night. They were 57% from the field. That's really good. But I think it also presents a bigger issue going forward for this Arkansas team that I think we got a preview of it in some of their losses this season. A few weeks ago, I mentioned the Houston game. Give up 94 points to Houston. Now, Houston is one of the best basketball teams in the country. They're actually my pick I chose a couple months ago to win the national championship. They're a great team. But they're a team that's known for its defense. They're not known for their offense. And Houston put up 94 points on the Razorbacks on a neutral court. So when that happened, I was like, you know what? Arkansas might have a problem on the defensive side of the ball, of the court. That was the first sign to say, hey, maybe this team isn't as amazing as we think it is. And then you give up 95 points to Auburn this past Saturday. That's not ideal. That's just not ideal, so I'm concerned a little bit about the defense going forward. I don't know what needs to change. I don't know if you run some zone. I don't know if you press a little bit more because pressing did work against Tennessee. I don't know what it is because Arkansas, we've seen it this season. They have the athletes. They have the players. They have the makeup of a team that can be really special. But they just weren't in this game. They flat out were not the better team in this game. My second big point is a lack of aggression on the boards. They were out-rebounded 37-28. And one thing I want to specify, that's not on Malik Ewan. Malik Ewan, 12 rebounds. I think he had a double-double. I can't remember how many points he ended up finishing with. Malik Ewan had himself a good game. He was probably the only Razorback that did have a good game. I mean, Acuff played good as well, but Malik Ewan had a good game, and he's a big man. He's supposed to get those rebounds. The stats show it. A guy who needs to step up is his counterpart big man, and Nick Pringle and Trevin Brazil. I know TB is a little bit of a different type of big man. Nick Pringle is a big man. Now he's a little bit skinnier, but he's a big man, and he's supposed to get those rebounds. Nick Pringle played 16 minutes, had 2 rebounds, 3 points. You can't have that out of your SEC caliber big guy. And this is a guy who played at Alabama and was successful, played at South Carolina and was successful, and now is playing for Arkansas and just hasn't put it together. And he's about to play his former team in a couple days here, which is, we'll see how that goes. I don't know how much that really matters with the transfer portal and all these things. But my point in saying all of this is Arkansas just didn't play like they wanted to be in the game, like they wanted to win the game. The lack of effort was concerning and confusing And I don't know why this team didn't show up for this game, but they just didn't. And I hope it's just a one-time thing, but you specifically saw it with rebounding. And that was the difference, one of the big differences in the game was getting those rebounds. And that wasn't just like, oh, they got out-rebounded. No, it was a bigger thing at heart, which was, did this team play hard? Did this team want to be here? It seemed like no. It seemed like no. And I don't know the answer to why. My third and final big thing is kind of what I've already been summarizing here. This is not the Arkansas team that I know. This is not the Arkansas team that you know. This is not the Arkansas team that beat Tennessee. This is not the Arkansas team that cruised through the non-conference except for a couple of games, that almost beat Duke, that almost beat Michigan State. They weren't really close against Houston, but this is an Arkansas team that is really good. They're a really good team, and this is a completely different team in this game. So this is not what we're familiar with. And, another thing I'll say is this was probably their second big road game. Now, they had their first SEC road game about a week ago. They beat Ole Miss. They almost fumbled it down the stretch, but they beat Ole Miss. But that was in Oxford against a bad Ole Miss team, relatively bad. This was in Auburn, Alabama, against a pretty good Auburn team. Not as good as they have been in recent years, it seems, but an Auburn team and an Auburn crowd that will get real feisty and that will cheer real loud. And Arkansas hasn't played an environment like that. They have not. I mean, East Lansing is the only other time that Arkansas has played in a loud, raucous environment. And they're going to have to get used to it. They've got some tough games coming up, going on the road, that they're going to have to play better. Simple as that, Arkansas is going to have to play better. So this was not the team that I know. It was not the Arkansas team that I know. And as Coach Cal would say it, just time to burn the tape and move on.
They were desperate, and they played that way. And for us, I walked in and said, not my team. I'm burning the tape. Let's move on. Get on the bus fast. Let's get out of here. What are you going to do? It wasn't us. But you know what? This stuff happens. It happened to us last year. We got it going, and we went somewhere, I think South Carolina, and we were down 35. So this happens. They're not machines. They're not robots. And give Auburn credit. The way they played, we're a lane touch team. Who was the lane touch team today? We're not a team that tries to shoot 33s. Who did that today? Us. Because the stuff was really rough. If you drove, it was rough. You're not just getting a free lane unless you were driving on us. But like I said, I won't watch this tape. Not my team.
All right, so Coach Cal's going to move on, and I'm going to trust him, and I'm going to move on myself. Let's do a wrap around some other college basketball games from this past weekend in the Natural State. We'll talk Arkansas State, Little Rock, UCA men, and then we'll go back to the same thing through the women's side of things. So let's start with Arkansas State. The Red Wolves pull it out against Texas State, 83-82. They never trailed in this game, but it came pretty close there at the end. But they do win by 1 point. They move to 4-1 in Sun Belt play. They're now one game back of first place in the Sun Belt Conference. Something I love about this team is just the balanced effort. And that almost makes it kind of hard to talk about because, all these games are going on at the same time, so I'm really not watching every single game. I'm looking at the box score. I'm looking at highlights. I'm looking at all these things. I'm not watching these full games. And I think even if you were watching these full games, you would say there's really not one star playmaker that Arkansas State has. Sometimes that's a concern. I don't think it is with this team. You got a really balanced effort. It seems like they have a really balanced team. Seems like they have a really deep bench. Maybe they're still figuring out who their playmakers are, but I like that. You're 5 games into the Sun Belt play, and you still have that deep of a bench. That's good. That's really good, and I hope Arkansas State keeps that up. When I talk about a balanced effort, you see some of their names behind me. Chandler Jackson, 16 points. Matt Heyman, 14 points. Jalen Hampton, a quiet double-double, 11 points, 12 rebounds. And speaking of rebounds, they out-rebounded the Bobcats by 11. So that's good, right? 4-1 under the new era of Ryan Pannone. And speaking of Mr. Pannone, Here's what he had to say about the win after the game.
Huge win for us, obviously. We didn't play great. We didn't play our best. I don't think that we executed what we wanted to do offensively or defensively at a high enough level, but we found a way to win. And some of the things that we did really well that put us in position to win, our offensive rebounding, we had 43% of our offensive rebounds. We held them to 25%, which would be, we had the third highest offensive rebounding percentage against them on the year, and we held them to third fewest offensive rebounding percentage on the year. And then obviously making free throws. I think those two things were a big catalyst, three things in terms of winning the game.
All right, so good for the Red Wolves. Keep on cruising. Let's move on to Little Rock. They minor upset, take down Lindenwood 82-74 on the road. They're now 4-2 in OVC play. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. And I'll say quickly what I'm going to say every single week that I said last week. This is a team that has 3 really good players, possible starters, 3 guys who would get playing time and be some of the best players in the conference, and both the Robinsons and Terrion Burgess that are out for the season. And this team is still putting the pieces together and winning games. Now, I know it's the OVC, and maybe, my OVC knowledge isn't incredible, so I'm not going to sit here and say that this was, a really good Lindenwood team, but it's a win. It's a win for Little Rock. It's a road win in the OVC, which is always tough to do. Braxton Bayless, phenomenal in this game, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Jonathan Lawson continues to be really consistent, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. Cam Wallace is stepping up. He also had a double-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds for this Trojans team that shared the ball well. That shared the ball really well. 19 assists in this game. That's good. And now, I talked about Arkansas State having a really deep bench. Complete opposite for Little Rock. They got 2 guys coming off the bench, and they don't play even that much, really. Maybe 1 guy. I can't remember. They're injury-riddled. They're figuring things out. But they're doing the right things. 19 assists is impressive. That means they're sharing the ball at a high level. They're doing the right things. They're converting in fast break opportunities. That's good. And it's a good win for Little Rock, 82-74, the final score. Let's move on to UCA. They fall to Eastern Kentucky, but it was a really close one. The final score, 79-75. Let's start at the very beginning. UCA led this game 12-0 to begin the game. Fast forward to 18 seconds left in the game. UCA down by 4. According to ESPN Analytics, they have about, I wrote it down somewhere, 8% chance. They've got an 8% chance to win with 18 seconds left in the game. And then a guy named Cam Hunter went to work. Cam Hunter, the guy who transferred back to play for the Bears this season up in Conway, has been sensational this season. He finished with a game-high 25 points, 10 of 19 from the field, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He pulled them back into that game, and he forced overtime against a pretty good Eastern Kentucky team that UCA had a chance to beat, but they just couldn't quite get there. Went to overtime, then UCA took the lead and had all the momentum. We're up by 4 with a couple minutes left, and then EKU just hit a couple big three-pointers and went on to win the game. 19 three-pointers for the Colonels, which is a pretty high mark. I know they shot a lot of three-pointers, but only critique there for UCA, defense. Defend those a little bit better. I know some of the threes were big, long, deep three-pointers, but maybe that's an area of improvement for them going forward. But UCA falling by 4 to Eastern Kentucky. But still, I think they're better than they were last year. It's possible. They have a more complete team. They have a little bit of a healthier team, too. I know they don't have Lane Taylor like they did last year, but they got Cam Hunter. That's a pretty close replacement. Maybe not quite that level, but he's a pretty special player. So that's UCA. Let's go to the women's side of basketball now and go through all of our women's teams. Arkansas women's basketball, actually all of our women's basketball teams. We're gonna speed through this because they all lost. I'll just give it spoiler to you. Arkansas women's basketball crushed by Tennessee, the number 20 team in the country, 85-50. The final score. The Razorbacks off to their worst SEC start since 2017. It ties that 2017 start to conference play when they started out 0-4. Turning it over 26 times. 26 times is not, and you're never going to win a game, especially when you force on the other end, on the defensive end, when you force 8 turnovers. So that's now 5 straight losses for the Razorbacks. The bright spot of Jada Bates is fun, 13 points, 9 rebounds, but not playing like you want to see them play right now. And one thing I will say, if I'm being a little optimistic, is they have had a tough slate to begin the conference play. They've already played South Carolina and Tennessee, two of the top teams in the SEC back-to-back is no fun. And that's what happened with Arkansas this past week. So maybe they can get some easier opponents, getting Auburn in there, and maybe that will help Arkansas and get some more momentum for Kelsey Music and for her to do a little better than what she's been doing with the start of conference play. All right, Arkansas State. This was a rare one. We didn't expect them, at least I didn't expect them to lose this game on Saturday. And if they lost, I wouldn't have been super surprised because it was on the road against a good Troy team. But for them to lose like they lost this game, just chucking three-pointers, which is something they do often, but when you aren't making them, you want to maybe slow that down a little bit. They lost 86-64, their first conference loss of the season. A couple things. Rebounding was an issue, 56 rebounds for Troy, 35 rebounds for Arkansas State. That's a horrible margin. I mentioned the three-pointers. They were 9 for 39 from beyond the arc. And this game is a little bit close in the first part of the first quarter, and then just after that, Troy took it away. The bright spot of Chrislyn Rose with 19 points. But what Troy did such a good job of, that I don't know how they did it, and they needed to give, if they have the secrets to how to beat Arkansas State, they needed to give this to the rest of the Sun Belt to help them out. I'm sure they won't, but they do, right? Is Arkansas State, the key to them winning under head coach Destiny Rogers, just like last season, make three-pointers. They shoot a lot of them, but they didn't make them in this game, and turn the other team over. And I don't think I wrote down the turnovers that Troy had, probably because it wasn't notable. It wasn't notable. Normally it is notable. Man, they played such good defense. Their press really got to the Trojans. That didn't happen in this game. The Trojans took care of the ball, and then they made shots on the other end. And that's the key to beating Arkansas State. It sounds simple, but it's hard to do. And so it's pretty impressive that Troy was able to do that. We'll see. They probably do play each other later on in the season, so we'll see when that rematch happens in Jonesboro. All right, let's talk about Little Rock women's basketball, destroyed by Lindenwood, 71-43. They did have 4 straight wins. They were looking good in the OVC. Then you go on the road to a pretty good Lindenwood team, drop that one. They trailed 31-9 at the end of the first quarter, just turnover after turnover. I was watching a portion of that game, and it was just like, what are we doing? Just forcing passes, forcing shots, and when you put yourself in a hole, and that big of a hole at the end of the first quarter, you lose games. So they're still in good shape. They're still looking good in the OVC, but a tough loss for them on the road to Lindenwood. All right, finally, of our women's basketball teams, UCA, the Sugar Bears, losing 64-54 at home to Eastern Kentucky. The difference was the second quarter. I mean, they looked good. UCA looked good against this team in the first quarter. Second quarter, different story. The Colonels outscored them 28-13. And that's the difference in the game. So tough day for the Sugar Bears, a tough day for Shea Littleford. She's been their go-to playmaker, flashy, guard this season. She was held to 5 points. 5 points. So give credit to EKU and their defense and what they did to slow her down. But not a good day for her, and a great day for three-pointers. Great day for EKU, 40% from the on the arc. Complete opposite for UCA, not complete, but almost. UCA, well, complete opposite would be -40. Complete opposite for UCA, 17% from the beyond the arc. Bears are now 2-2 in conference play. All right, it's time to move on to a little bit more some positive news. Let's move on to my Lutties Legend of the Week. This week, I'm giving to Little Rock's Braxton Bayless. I mean, what a flashy guard that this guy is. 21 points in their win. I'll double check my math here. Lindenwood, I believe. Yeah, Lindenwood. 21 points in their win against Lindenwood, and is putting together some good performances to help this Little Rock team that really needs help right now. 21 points. He was 8 for 14 from the field, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. That is Braxton Bayless. He is my Lutties Legend of the Week. All right, finally, let's move on to my Lutties Look Ahead to Arkansas men's basketball. They are back at it Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. This game on SEC Network. They're facing off against a South Carolina team. I think this is what Cal was talking about earlier, that just dominated Arkansas at the end of the season last year. I'm sure no one remembers that except for myself. A lot of new players, a lot of similar players, but I'm sure Arkansas is not going to let that bug them in this game. I would expect, just like I predicted a couple weeks ago, I would expect Arkansas to win this game. to bounce back and get the win. This game's at home. There's not a betting line yet, but I would imagine the Razorbacks are double-digit favorites. Could be much. Maybe -8 would be my guess. But it's Arkansas at South Carolina. That is Wednesday night at 8. Well, that's going to do it for another fun episode of Luttie's Look Back. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next week.